Morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm finally here to talk about my face favourites. As I'm saying that finally, I'm thinking you might not actually notice that there's been some less filming, less videos, but I suppose because I haven't filmed for a couple of weeks. That last video on eye makeup was filmed a few weeks ago and then it took me a while to edit it. I'm having ongoing issues with these migraines. I've had them daily for 3 years, but they used to not come on until lunchtime, and so I'd be able to film in the morning. Now they're just every day, except I seem to get like 1 day a week where I'm able to live, if you like. But I've got treatment coming up for them. I've got Botox in my head and neck for them in January, I think. And I've also got an operation on my bladder happening. So there's a lot going on health-wise. I talk about that over on my Life as a Zebra channel, but if you see any gaps, then that's probably why. It's probably because the migraines are taking priority. The other thing in relation to that is what I've been doing is I get myself out of bed, I put my makeup on, and then I see how I feel. And so I'm not specifically doing makeup for YouTube, because normally I would try and make sure I had used all of these favourites that I'm talking about. But this morning I put my makeup on, I was like, okay, so far so good, let me quickly film a video before anything changes. But let me talk about these two foundations to start with, because I would say that there's the Kat Von D True Portrait foundation, and then the Kiko Instamoisture. And I would say that the Kiko one is pretty much a dupe of the Kat Von D True Portrait. And I love these both equally. The Kat Von D True Portrait it's really, really thin. It dries quickly, but not so quickly that you can't blend it. So it's easy to blend. It never looks cakey on me. You know, I never put it on and think, oh, my makeup looks cakey. Whereas I do with other ones, even the one I've got on today, which is the Bare Minerals Bare Pro. I've actually got it on quite thinly, and I mixed it with a bit of bronzing drops from No. 7, and I'm surprised how much I like it. Actually, it's maybe just been user error with that foundation, but I just have never ever felt like I didn't like my foundation when I put this one on. And the same with the Kiko Instamoisture, and this is ever so slightly thicker than this, but the same thing. It dries down nicely. Although it's a moisture foundation, it doesn't look dewy at all. So these are mostly for you that like matte, like me. I do like a matte finish, but I don't want my skin to feel tight and I don't want it to look too made up, if that makes sense. But the problem with this one, the Kiko one, is there isn't a huge colour range. This is the really light one that I rarely use, and the one below it is it's great for me when I've just done myself tan, but it's just that tad too dark for me. So I wish there was a bigger colour range, and that would be my only favourite, because this is very, very expensive. But I love both of those foundations. Onto concealer, and I did show you this concealer in a recent video. This is the Bare Minerals Bare Skin Serum Concealer. I do think concealer draws attention to fine lines under the eyes. You may remember that for a lot of this year I didn't use concealer at all. I was just putting my foundation on and not cleaning up. I was just sort of trying to be careful with my eyeshadow. Then I was cleaning up underneath and putting foundation under there. But when I do use concealer, I really like the brightening effect. I feel like it just finishes the whole look off really nicely. And this, although it does still attract attention to lines, it's the least, it's the most moisturising, it's the most, and it attracts, oh my God, what am I trying to say? Out of all the concealers I've tried, and I tried a lot this year, I tried some from Revolution, I can't remember the other ones I've tried, but I've tried a few that I haven't even talked about that all were like Hydra or, moisture type ones. And still, this is the only one that works for me. The other ones would just really make my fine lines look terrible. And I don't feel like this one does as much as others. So what have we done? We've done our foundation, we've done our concealer. Oh, powder. So face powder, that was a no-brainer for me. I didn't even have to think about it. It's the Revolution powders, and this is my favourite one. This is the Revolution Bacon Blot in translucent. If I had to grab one powder, it would be this. I don't love the packaging, but I love the price, and that's why the packaging. But the product itself, absolutely perfect. Never makes me look too pale. It's not too powdery, it doesn't kick up too much. It stays set. It keeps my makeup set. Really like it, really, really like this. But I actually also like all of the other Revolution powders. I've got one that's kind of in a square brick shape that I think is even less expensive than this. I think this is £6 and that one is £4. That one's okay. I've got the loose powder that I love, absolutely love their translucent loose powder. I just find loose powder quite messy, so I do prefer a compact. And I more recently bought the one with niacin in, but it's a little bit too white for me. It's a very, very white It's called translucent, but it is white. So this would be my absolute favourite. And bearing in mind, I've tried this year the Huda Beauty one that everybody was raving about, but I just couldn't get over the scent. I tried the Hourglass one and I thought it was nice, but this is still my favourite. Okay, so on to bronzer, and I'm so happy about bronzer because I'm sure I haven't been able to talk about this because it wasn't available for a while, but this is the Bare Minerals Invisible Bronze. This is the best bronzer I've ever used, and I was thinking to myself today, actually, I might just buy a backup in case it disappears, because bronzer is something that I've found really, really difficult to find the right one for me. If you've got fair skin like me, I would say to try this one. This one is in fair to light, so you get it in fair to light and also medium to dark. This year I tried the Charlotte Tilbury one, you know, the huge one that was in a light colour, and it just didn't look right. Well, when I say it just didn't look right, it didn't look anything actually. It was just way too light and you could barely see it at all. So you'd have to keep on putting some on and then you'd be like, I can kind of see it. Whereas this one has actually got a colour to it, but it's not too dark. It's funny how when I put it on my finger there, it looks completely different to on my hand. It looks warm there, it looks more like a contour colour there, but it is just beautiful. And what I love about it is it goes on beautifully. Like, you don't have to be skilled at all, because I know I'm not skilled in makeup, and so when I use my brush, it just, you know, I put it on and it's already kind of blended. It doesn't break up through the day, it doesn't go patchy, which I have found happens with a lot of bronzers. I love the Too Faced Milk Chocolate just for the smell. I love the look of the powder. I think it's a beautiful powder to use. I think it looks stunning when it goes on. It always breaks up on me and I end up with sort of lines down here and it looks really weird by the end of the day. This doesn't do that, so highly, highly recommend this. I'm so delighted I can tell you about it, because I don't know whether I said already, but there's a lot of things that, well, not a lot, but there's a few things that I would tell you about that were my favourite, but they don't exist anymore. So for example, this eyeshadow that I used this morning is using a palette by Morphe called the Vintage Rose palette, but it's out of stock everywhere. And so I thought, well, it's pointless me mentioning that, you know, in my eye video, but I would have talked about that. And also lip glosses. There's a couple of lip glosses that I love, one by Collection, one by CYO, but neither of those I can find anywhere at all. And so I feel like it's pointless telling you about them. So I'm delighted that I can say you can get that Bare Minerals bronze. Watch now, after this video, it'll be sold out or something. Okay, on to blush. And I have two blushes to talk about. Again, neither of which I'm wearing. The one I'm wearing is the Hourglass Radiant Magenta, but my favourite blush of all time, the ones that I would take with me if I only had one brand, if you like, are these Hourglass Ambient Lighting blushes. I just think they are stunning. I've bought two more in minis. The one I've got on is Radiant Magenta, and it's just a little mini that I can't remember where I got it from. I'll try and remember and link it for you, because again, they're very, very expensive, but I do think they're a good investment because it's a product. Powder products like this do last quite a long time. This one is just stunning. This is Dib Infusion, and I think this would be my absolute favourite. It doesn't look like much there, does it? But on, it just gives the loveliest sort of peachy glow, I would say, because it's not completely matte, and that's what I like about it. I don't want to use a shimmery blush anymore, but this gives ever so slightly satin. It gives it a satin look to it, you know, and it's really, really beautiful. So love the Hourglass blushes. My rosy type blush though is a new find this year, and it's this one, and this is by Flower Beauty. Now again, I do have a favourite. I love the Urban Decay 8 Hour blush, but it doesn't exist anymore from what I can see. I can't find that anywhere online. So that's why I was looking for other blushes, and this one I love. And the good thing about this is it's a drugstore one, so I love this as much as my Urban Decay one. Again, doesn't look much on my finger there. I must stop doing blush and bronzer swatches on my finger. Isn't that pretty? But it's just such a nice product. You can see that even there with my finger, it just really, really blends in beautifully. It's such a natural looking colour. It's not too powdery. It lasts, you know, it stays on your skin, really, really like that. So that's the Drew Barrymore range of makeup. Remember I did the Flower Beauty haul. Love that. Okay, so I've done foundation, concealer, powder, bronzer, blush. I don't use a primer, by the way, and I don't use highlighting powder. I have got about 6 highlighting powders, which I keep meaning to get out and try, but it's just not something that I seem to have phases of using it, and I haven't had a phase of using them, so I couldn't tell you what my favourite would be. So what would I do next? Next I would do, I've already done the eye makeup video, so it'll be lips. So we're on to lips. Oh no, you know what? Let me talk about setting spray first. This is my favourite setting spray. This is the Urban Decay All Nighter, the original one. I like there's another All Nighter matte, I think, but I didn't notice much difference between that and the original. But I've also been using the Morphe one. Now I showed you the Morphe one that I like about it, the continuous mist that it gives you. This one is just a standard kind of mist, you know, and it's absolutely fine. But I have been able to test setting sprays to the max, if you like, because obviously when I go to the supermarket I need to wear a mask now, so I've been spraying it inside of the mask and on my face, and I can see the differences, and this one is definitely the best performance wise. It's 100% the best one. The Morphe one does work, but when I use the Morphe one there is a little bit of makeup on the inside of the mask, and you know, I've sort of judged it where I've been wearing it for the same amount of time, if you know what I mean, but I've not been too hot or anything, because these are things that could affect if you're sweating too much or whatever, you know. And definitely this one performs the best. When I spray this inside my mask and on my face, or even just inside my mask, I've even used it that way, there's barely anything. You can barely tell that I've got any makeup on when I take the mask off. And that's been really important to me recently, and another way that I can tell that it's working. I'm sure you can probably see that I've got a lovely new spot here, and this is the remnants of an old spot. Hormone imbalance is going on, and it's just, my skin has not been looking the greatest lately, but it's all internal stuff, you know, it's nothing to do with what I'm putting on it. But of course I make a lot of effort to conceal the spots if I'm going out, because I will at some point be taking my mask off. And I did notice the other day when I used I've done it with the number 7 and also the Morphe one, it took the concealer off of my blemishes, whereas when I used this one it didn't. So this is the one I'm going to be using next week. I'm actually meeting my friend for lunch. Can't believe I've only seen her twice this year, and I normally see her once a month, as you guys know, but she lives in a different city to me, and so it's been really hard with all the different tiers. But we found somewhere that we can meet for a walk that is 5 miles away from the border, and so, well, 5 miles away for each of us from the border in our respective cities, which means that we're allowed to do it in our current tiers, although the tiers may change today. In fact, thinking about it, will that make a difference? Because if one of our tiers changes, I don't think we'll be able to meet. I need to look into that later today, and we've not even made a plan for time or anything. Anyway, what was my point? My point is that I will use this because obviously I'll need to wear a mask when I meet her, because we will probably go for a coffee, and I will make sure to be wearing this. Okay, on to lipstick or lip products. I've got 3 lipsticks and 1 lip gloss. I don't have a lip pencil to tell you about, or a lip liner, even though I never wear lipstick without a lip liner. I just feel bare without it. I just wouldn't bother with lipstick if I didn't put a lip pencil on first. I feel like it gives my lips a bit more fullness. You know, I've got a really thin top lip, and I just think it would disappear without that, you know. And I've worn them forevermore, you know. I've never worn lipstick without wearing a lip liner. But since Too Faced Perfect Nude stopped doing lip pencils, or Too Faced stopped doing lip pencils, I haven't been able to find one that matches that. It is just the loveliest colour. It's a pinky beige, and I've never found one to match it. There was one by Maybelline that was the same colour, but I remember it dried up a bit and it did sort of pull on my lips, and I only know that because I stopped using it because I converted to cruelty free, but I still had it like sitting in the lip pencils, and I used it and I was like, oh, that pulls on the lips, whereas the Too Faced one just was always just sort of glided over your lips, you know. And I've tried a lot of lip liners this year, all the ones that you've suggested, from Jordana, from Essence, from NYX. I've tried all of them. Number 7, you know, I've tried all of them, and none of them are light enough. It's normally they're not light enough, or they're too orangey. I tried one recently from Jamie Genevieve's range, and it's not light enough. So I'm still on the hunt for the perfect lip liner. And I don't have a nude lipstick, but I do have 3 lipsticks to talk about. The lipstick I'm wearing today is Stila Liquid Lipstick in Caramello, but I've actually gone off it, which is really weird, isn't it? Because I've loved this for years, but I feel like when I put it on, or when I have put it on recently, I'm noticing my hair's wonky. Like me at the minute, I'm wonky. I feel like I just look really pale with it on, and it's maybe, I find it really interesting when things change, when your view changes on something that hasn't changed, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of you guys that have always said you didn't like the Stila Liquid Lipstick in Caramello on me because you're like, who wants to look dead? Who likes a nude lip? And I don't know whether I've gone off our nude lip, but just when I wear the caramello, like today, I was like, oh, good Lord, it makes me look deathly. And I put a lip gloss on top of it to sort of change the colour slightly. So I don't know whether that's it. And I have tried to use a bit more colour this year. And so these two have been my absolute favourites. These are the Stila liquid lipsticks, which I still love. I love the formula, but this one is in Perla and this one is in Palermo. So you probably recognise them from me wearing them in a couple of videos. And you guys always give me compliments, especially on the one that's Perla, because it's a bit more, it's got a bit more colour to it, you know, and I think it definitely brightens up my face wearing a bit more colour. The problem is I often wear like peach or coral type eyeshadows, and I haven't found a peachy nude that I love yet, but I love those two. And I had to mention the sleek ones because I love the sleek formula. Maybe I should have a look and see if there's any nude colours. I'm sure I have, and I'm sure I've tried them, but it's even harder now without testers. But I love this colour. This is called Anodized Ruby. I'll do a little swatch for you, but I love this formula. The sleek Matte Me Metallic, I think they're called, are really nice, just as good as the Stila ones, you know, but they're mostly bold colours. They don't do very many in the kind of nude spectrum, and you can see how well it stays on. But I really like the sleek ones, and I always look at those. That's something that when I go into Boots, I'm always like, oh, let me check the sleek and see if there's any more of their lipsticks out. Then for lip gloss, I only have one lip gloss, because like I said, I've got a couple of favourites that I wear but that just don't exist anymore. But this has been a favourite. This is the Madison Beer. It's a Morphe lip gloss, and that's what I've got on today. That's what I put on top of the Stila lipstick. I love it because it feels like a lip balm. Doesn't feel like a lip gloss. My hair doesn't stick to it. Doesn't feel sticky. And it stays on. I've had this on for, I don't think I've reapplied this for about an hour or two, which it doesn't sound like much, but I think that's a lot, because I always thought about lip gloss that you need to be constantly applying it. You know, you'd always see girls with their lip gloss applying it, and I just couldn't be bothered with that. But I really, really like that one. So it's Madison Beer, and I think this colour is in Mercury, but I've got Satin as well, and I think they're both the same. That's everything for my face favourites, face and lip favourites. I hope that you enjoyed that. I told you pretty much what was on my face, didn't I? I've got the Bare Minerals Bare Prey foundation, but I mixed it with foundation drops, not foundation drops, bronzer drops from number 7. My eyes is the Vintage Rose palette by Morphe that is out of stock. Stila liquid lipstick. Yeah, I told you everything. I did. I told you everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. I am going to do the 2020 hair favourites next. So, yeah, I'll speak to you soon.